For weeks, anticipation had been building for Karoline Leavitt's appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. At just 27, she's not only the youngest White House press secretary in history, but also one of the most polarizing. Fiercely loyal to Donald Trump, she's at the center of a media firestorm as his second term kicks off, marked by controversy over press restrictions, trade tariffs on Canada, and a high-stakes Russia-Ukraine deal. Litt's sharp words and viral social media tactics have only fueled the debate. From her explosive "Canada is on its knees" remark to transforming the White House TikTok into a PR machine, critics accuse her of using Gen Z charm to mask deeper political issues. And Colbert? Never one to back down, he's ready to push for answers. Recently, the political world had been on fire with speculation. Karoline Leavitt, the youngest White House press secretary in U.S. history, was about to step into enemy territory. The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. This wasn't just another media appearance. It was an ambush, and everyone knew it. Colbert's audience, against her, the host, out for blood, the cameras, ready to capture every stumble. For the left, it was a chance to watch her crash and burn. For the right, it was a test of her strength. Would she hold her ground, or would Colbert's signature brand of mockery take her down? We must admit that the stakes couldn't have been higher about the political firestorm behind the interview. Donald Trump had just kicked off his second term, and Washington was reeling from the political earthquake he had set off. The administration had banned AP and Reuters from cabinet meetings, accusing them of bias and dishonesty. New tariffs on foreign imports had sparked backlash from global leaders, and Trump had brokered a controversial deal with Russia, bringing an end to the Ukraine war, but drawing accusations of appeasement. The mainstream media had been relentless. CNN, the New York Times, MSNBC. They had painted the administration as authoritarian, reckless, dangerous. But Karoline, she had stood at the podium, facing down reporters who tried to corner her, defending every decision with unwavering confidence. She had turned the White House press room into a battleground, proving she wasn't just another government mouthpiece, she was a fighter. And now, she was walking into the lion's den. Late-night television was notoriously brutal on conservatives. Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro, even Trump himself, all had been turned into viral punchlines on shows like Colbert's. And tonight, Karoline was the next target. The studio was buzzing with energy as the show's theme music blasted through the speakers. And the audience, a sea of liberal elites and Gen Z progressives, was already charged, prime for what they thought would be Colbert's next viral takedown. Then the announcer's voice echoed through the studio. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Karoline Leavitt." She stepped onto the stage, and the reaction was immediate. Applause, cheers, but also boos. Colbert's audience wasn't just welcoming her, they were ready for battle. She didn't flinch. Her posture was perfect, and her expression unshaken. She waved politely, then strode toward the chair across from Colbert, her steps firm, confident, unfazed. She had stood at the White House podium before, facing an army of reporters who wanted her destroyed. This was no different. She took her seat, crossing her legs smoothly, and waited. Colbert leaned forward, his signature smirk already in place. And then, he fired the first shot. "Karoline, welcome to the show. At 27, you're the youngest White House press secretary ever. Pretty impressive. But let me ask, what's harder, defending Trump or babysitting him?" The audience erupted in laughter. Loud, mocking, exactly what he wanted. The camera zoomed in on her face, waiting for a reaction. This was the moment they had been waiting for. Would she crack? Would she blush, stutter, backpedal? But Karoline, she didn't blink. Colbert sat back, letting the laughter roll through the room. He was expecting Karoline to stumble, to get flustered, to grasp for a way out. Instead, she did something he didn't expect. She smiled, not a nervous smile, a slow, knowing smile. Then she leaned forward, her sharp blue eyes locking onto his, like a predator studying its prey. "Thanks for having me, Stephen." "But no, I don't babysit anyone. I work with a leader who's making America stronger, and judging by how obsessed you are with him, I'd say you do too. Gasps. The crowd hesitated. Even Colbert blinked. For a moment, just a moment, he wasn't the one in control. She had flipped it on him. The smirk on his face tightened, but he recovered quickly. He wouldn't let her win that easily. Well, that's one way to spin it, he shrugged, shifting in his chair. But let's talk about that leadership. Trump just banned AP and Reuters from cabinet meetings. Sounds more like a dictatorship than a democracy, don't you think? Applause, cheers, nods from the audience. They were waiting to see her squirm. But instead, she laughed. Not nervously, confidently. She sat up straighter, her voice carrying over the crowd. Stephen, let's get real. We didn't ban anyone. We cut out the noise. Americans don't trust mainstream media anymore. You know it. I know it. So we're giving them direct access to the truth. The crowd wasn't sure how to react. She gestured toward them, turning her attention away from Colbert. You don't need a bunch of reporters twisting the facts. You have TikTok, X live streams. You can hear it straight from us. She was talking to the audience now, not to him, and they felt it. For the first time, Colbert wasn't the center of attention. That was a problem. He saw his opening and pounced. Oh, right, because TikTok is definitely where Americans go for hard news. Laughter, cheers. Colbert smirked again, sensing victory. But Karoline, she wasn't done. She tilted her head slightly, her smile growing just a little sharper. Then she struck back. Well, Stephen, considering how many clips of your show get taken out of context on TikTok, maybe you should be thanking us for the exposure. The audience gasped. A conservative senator in the audience suddenly burst into applause. Even Colbert's smirk faltered. This wasn't going the way he had planned. Karoline wasn't playing defense, she was on the attack. And now? It was Colbert who looked uncomfortable. And now? Colbert's smirk remained, but his posture changed. He wasn't just playing anymore. He was hunting. He had seen conservatives squirm under his pressure before. He had humiliated them, twisted their words, reduced them to viral punchlines. And tonight was supposed to be no different. He leaned in, his fingers interlaced, his voice sharp but controlled. Okay, Karoline, let's cut through the slogans. Let's talk about real leadership. Trump's latest Russia deal, isn't that just appeasement? Giving Putin what he wants? The audience cheered, rallying behind their host. To them, this was a moment of reckoning, a chance to watch Karoline squirm, to see her struggle to defend the indefensible. But Karoline, she didn't squirm. She didn't struggle. She exhaled slowly, gathering herself, before meeting his gaze with unshaken confidence. Her voice rang out, steady, measured, and sharp as a blade. Stephen, you say appeasement. I say peace. We ended a war without sending American troops to die. I'd call that a win. Her words hung in the air, heavy with implications. Colbert chuckled, shaking his head, dismissing her as though she were a naive child speaking of things she didn't understand. Peace? Karoline, Russia still controls Crimea. Ukraine lost land. You call that winning? The audience applauded again, feeding off his confidence. He thought he had her cornered, but Karoline wasn't playing defense. She tilted her head slightly, studying him, waiting for the noise to die down. Then her voice softened, not weakly, but like a sharpened knife pressed lightly against his skin. I call winning getting our troops home. I call winning not wasting billions of taxpayer dollars on endless wars. And Stephen? You don't have to like Trump, but let's be honest. If Biden had made this deal, you'd be calling him a hero. And boom, the entire studio shifted. Colbert's smile faltered, just for a second. The crowd reacted. Some clapped, some booed, some just sat there stunned. For the first time tonight, Colbert wasn't laughing. His fingers tapped against his desk. A telltale sign that he was thinking. Thinking about how to regain control. Thinking about how to salvage the moment. This wasn't going the way he had planned. Colbert took a deep breath, shaking his head dramatically, playing up his frustration. It was a tactic, a way to keep the audience on his side. You know, Karoline, You talk a lot about winning, but are you really winning? He paused, let the weight of the question settle in. Then he leaned in closer, his eyes narrowing. Or are you just Trump's mouthpiece? Silence. A loaded question, designed to cut deep, to humiliate her, to make her seem like a puppet. The audience hushed, waiting to see if she would flinch, waiting to see if she would break. But Karoline, she didn't flinch. She didn't blink. She just smiled, a slow, confident, almost amused smile. Then she leaned forward, her voice quiet but razor-sharp. Stephen, if you think I'm just repeating talking points. She paused, letting the tension build. Then, she continued. Then why do you look so nervous? The room exploded. Applause, cheers, gasps. Even Colbert's jaw tensed. He forced a chuckle, but his eyes told a different story. He had been outplayed, and at this very moment. The internet explodes. Karoline destroys Colbert began trending. Leavitt versus late night. Who really won? Is she the future of the GOP? The clip spread like wildfire. Conservatives celebrated. Liberals scrambled for damage control. Even mainstream outlets had to admit she held her own. Fox News ran with Karoline Leavitt, the young conservative who just stood her ground against Colbert. CNN. Did Colbert underestimate his guest? The reactions were split. But one thing was undeniable. Karoline was no joke. She had gone into enemy territory and refused to back down. And Colbert? As the credits rolled, he sat at his desk, rubbing his temple with a forced smile, because he knew he had underestimated her. As Karoline stepped off that stage, she wasn't just leaving behind a late-night interview. She was walking into history. In a world where conservatives are expected to back down, where voices like hers are mocked, dismissed, and silenced, she had done the unthinkable. She stood firm. She didn't just defend herself. She challenged the narrative. She proved that strength isn't in shouting the loudest, but in refusing to be drowned out. And as the night faded and millions replayed the moment, one truth became undeniable. Karoline Leavitt hadn't just won an argument. She had sparked a movement. The story ends here. If you support the talented Karoline Leavitt, please leave me a like and subscribe. If you have any additional comments, please leave a comment below. And please note, the stories shared here are entirely fictional and meant for entertainment purposes only. Any similarities to real events, individuals, or situations are purely coincidental and not intended to reflect reality in any way. Thank you and see you again.